Hello, how are you? My name is Karen Singmaster, and this is the Chem 1A prep course. The first thing we want you to do before we get started is, if you didn't do it, to stop the video and go print the handouts, all right? The handout packet, which I have a copy of here, and let me take some of it, contains a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about, and since I don't have the option of projecting overheads or switching back and forth to sharing a screen, then I have just a whiteboard and then I'll reference the handouts. So it's best to have a copy of them. We're going to go through pages 1 through 7 in this video. And again, my name is Karen Singmaster. I will not be teaching one of the lectures for Chem 1A. That will be Dr. Esfandiari, Dr. Kelly, and Dr. Sharuso. I coordinate all the labs for Chem 1A and Chem 1B. And so as we talk, we'll see I manage the modules for the labs, and I take care of the chem prep and a few other things like that, okay? And I'll mention things as they happen. Also, please realize I'm my own videographer. It's just me in a room at San Jose State doing this. So you see that there are 2 boards. So there'll be a break for me to have to go from board to board, because it's just me and my iPad. Remember, you can stop the video at any time. You can slow it down. You can zoom it. Please note that it doesn't look super great, because even though the iPad has a good camera, I'm recording these through Zoom, and then Zoom compresses it in some way that when it ends up in YouTube, it's not the crispest of images, and it's all I can do at this moment in time. And again, remember the 3 whiteboards that I transitioned to. You can accelerate it so you don't have to sit there waiting for me to transition the camera from one place to another. The other thing I want to remind you is I talk fast, so you can always slow me down. My first language is not English, it's actually Spanish. So sometimes I enunciate some words the Spanish way, particularly if at a moment I just I'm going fast. Occasionally we talk a lot about other things in the chem prep, probably a lot more when it's a live audience. Right now it's just me in the room, but when it's a live audience, we used to have 100 students in the summer in the chem prep. We talk about, how to study for a test, how to take a test and things like that. I'll try to put some of those things in, but it's sort of difficult to talk about it when I don't have an audience or no one asking me questions about it. I also have my cell phone on, so if you hear it beep, don't worry. I take care of 2 senior citizens, so I'm sort of on call all the time. Let's see. All right, so what are the goals of the chem prep? So the goals of the chem prep, when I created it back in the summer of 2003, was to get students ready for Chem 1A. Chem 1A requires that you know your high school chemistry. For some of you, the high school chemistry has been 7 years ago, right? Some of you don't even have high school chemistry. We don't check. We don't have the ability to go look at your high school transcripts and see if you actually had high school chemistry and if it was worth anything. If it was a good high school chemistry or a poor high school chemistry. So you're sort of on your own. And so this is meant to review the topics from high school chemistry that we expect you to know. The lecturers might cover them a little bit or a lot, depending on how they want to do it. But there were some inconsistencies. There were a lot of students who were totally lost in the course. It also serves to help you sort of get a jump start on the course, get a better sense of what it'll be like. But I do warn you that sometimes what happens is students are so prepped for that first test that then they don't keep up with the material for the second test and don't do well for the second test. So don't let if you do well in the first test because you had all this chem prep, don't slack off. You got to keep it up and maintain the same record of keeping up to date with the content of the course. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. The other thing this is going to do is, for anyone who's new to San Jose State, it will allow him or her to start figuring out how to use Canvas. So how to print files. We'll probably have some assessments, meaning like quizzes. I'll turn on things like, you can only see one question at a time. You can't go back to a question. So that you get a better feel, in the absence of actually a grade of any sort, what Canvas might be like, okay? And we'll talk a little more about Canvas for the course shortly. Now, the handouts, right? So you have the handouts, so that's why you need them printed, because I'm not writing all this up on the board. The first thing you see is the syllabus. That's the syllabus when I teach Chem 1A. Some people have exactly the same syllabus, but I can't promise that, right? The chapter there corresponds to the book I used. I don't know what book other people are going to use for lecturing, so clearly those choices there for what chapter will depend on the textbook. The lab experiments stay the same because I'm coordinating the lab and those are the same labs. The first 7 topics from independent study to stoichiometry, all those topics are required knowledge. If I'm lecturing, I would cover all of them in about 5 lectures, something like that, because I'm expecting you to remember all of that from high school chem. Some of the lecturers might ignore them altogether, might cover them much slower. It's up to them. So what we're going to do here in the Chem Prep is try to get through all of them in a way that, hopefully you review your high school chem, things you wake up about these things and you're better prepared, okay? The course, Chem 1A is a 5-unit course, all right? So San Jose State says that for every unit, you need to have 3 hours of effort of studying and or prepping or whatever per week. So that means expect this course to use up at least 15 hours of your week. Again, this is going to depend a lot on your experiences with high school chemistry. If you remember everything from high school chemistry, it might only be 10 hours. It might be less. If on the other hand, you're bad at arithmetic, you don't know what we're doing, then you might be spending 20 hours of effort a week trying to stay up to date. Okay, so that's a guideline, but again, a lot depends on you and how much you want to succeed in the course. And so you'll find students that put in little effort because they had a good high school chemistry, they have really good math backgrounds, who get a C and are happy with it. And you'll see people who put in a ton of effort and get the same C and they don't know why. Again, we're all different. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different mathematical skills, arithmetic skills, memorizing skills, because you have to memorize, problem-solving skills, reasoning skills. And so chemistry brings all of that together. A math course is just your math skills. You don't memorize much. A biology course, you memorize a lot more and there's a lot less building on math skills. Chemistry covers it all. And because of that, that's why chemistry is considered so difficult. It's also a new language, right? You're having to learn how to write symbols up. It's no different than learning math. You learned what a 1 looks like and what a 2 looks like. And when there's a plus sign, you know what to do. That's a symbol that you already know what to do with. For us in chemistry, you might have had high school chem, and that's it. There is no, year after year of chemistry playing with the elements, learning how to put together molecules that you can build from. So you're expected to gain what we might consider a new language very quickly, all right? All right, so the course is 5 units, okay? 3 of them are lectures, so you have 3 hours of lecture a week. That makes up, the testing occurring in lecture makes up 65% of your grade. So those would be lecture exams if the person has online homework. If they have quizzes, the final, that would be the lecture portion. Then the lab is the lab itself, which is 3 hours a week, and 1 hour a week of seminar where we discuss the lab for the following week. That's 35% of your grade. In seminar, you have the quizzes for the labs themselves and the lab exams. In lab, you're going to have the lab reports and the worksheets that might be due, okay? So for seminar, you will find that I'm in charge of the seminar, so I'm the one, telling you, there's a quiz on this and all that. You're expected to attend your lab, so you're registered to a lab. You will be attending your lab online. The seminar quizzes are going to be during that seminar period. However, the seminars themselves, we're probably going to record them all and upload them, a few days before, so you can view them before the actual seminar time if you want. But during that hour, expect to either take your quiz for that week or your lab exam, of which there are 2 on a given Friday in probably, one will probably be October and the other one in December, okay? The lab component is just a percent, and we give that percent to the lecturer, and then the lecturer combines that with the lecture score and decides your letter grade. There's just 1 letter grade for the full course, okay? And some of the letter grade, some of the numbers, excuse me, some of the percent for lab comes from your lab reports and your worksheets, and some of it comes from your quizzes, okay? All right, so now I get to switch a board, so it's gonna take me a minute, so you can probably speed things up. Should have brought some water with me because I'm talking a lot for the first time in a while. Okay, so what do you need for Chem 1A? You're going to need a computer. You're not going to be able to do an online course on an iPad or your cell phone. You are putting yourself at a serious disadvantage with that. In addition, you're going to need access to the internet. Whether that access is unreliable, then and you log out, it kicks you out of the lab, then you're absent for lab. If you don't submit the report sheet on time, or it kicks you out of the quiz, then that's also a problem. So make sure your internet access is reliable. One option is to come to campus and just sit in the grass outside, and maybe the internet connections here are better than what you have at home. Or find somewhere, maybe a relative's house has better internet connection than your house. So you have to think about having that be reliable. You need a camera. You need a camera because you have to be on video when doing your experiment in lab. You need a camera because some of the proctoring software requires that you be proctored visually, so they have to be able to see you. The camera could be with a computer, or you might have to buy yourself a webcam if your computer is very old. Realize that whatever you want to order, you want to get, you need to get soon, right? I placed an order today, and today's July 2nd. I placed an order today for 4 printers for some students in a program I run, and it says they won't be delivered till July 29th, okay? Because everyone's sort of ordering stuff to get ready for fall. So if you delay till the start of school to start buying, your computer or your camera or whatever, then expect that it could be as much as a 4-week delay before you get it. How are you going to do the course? So get that done now. You need a microphone. You have to be able to talk. Right? And people have to listen. Last students were claiming I don't have a microphone, so they weren't participating. We have time last semester. Now we have time. So make sure if your computer doesn't have a microphone, I have a computer without a microphone, so I have to buy myself a headset with a microphone. So again, do it. A printer. The printer was a problem for a lot of people last semester, and it's essential because, for example, you're printing out the handouts, so you have a copy. You're going to print out portions of the lab manual, so you have a copy to write things when we're doing the experiment online. You have to print out your report sheet. You have to print out your worksheet for lab. So all these things you have to be able to print to work on them during the lab, for example, or during a test, and then submit them. So again, a printer is essential. I would suggest the scanner is essential. You could buy a printer-scanner combination, but I would suggest the scanner is essential. But again, you might have software on your camera if you have a really good cell phone that will turn it sort of into a scanner, and you can upload that. But realize we have to be able to read it well. If it looks like gibberish, you'll get 0 for the points, for the content. Even though you quote unquote did it, if we can't read what you submit, then we got a problem, all right? And you'll use these things in other classes. It's not just this class. So it's a good investment for all your online classes. The textbook, that's to be determined by the lecturer, which one gets used. So that would be in the lecturer's green sheet. The green sheets I would load to the Chem Prep if by chance they generate them in time for me to load them into this Chem Prep course. If not, then I load the green sheet for lab and seminar, the part I control, to the Canvas section for the seminar, usually at least a week before the start of school. And then often I will open that Canvas course a week before the start of school so that you have access, okay? The textbook might have online homework. I don't know, that's up to each lecturer. Now, typically for the lab and seminar, you would be buying a lab manual. If you were interested, and sometimes the lecturers would require, there was a booklet also for Chem 1A. These were produced in-house. By that meaning, we wrote them so we can take them to a printer and print them cheaply. And so usually the lab manual was 15 and the booklet was 10. And the chemistry club would sell it. And so we weren't using a published lab manual, so it wasn't costing you 80 bucks. We can't sell them, right? You can't come, everyone can't come to campus and stand in line in front of the chemistry club and buy the lab manual and booklet. And so what's going to happen is that the portions of the lab manual that are relevant to a certain experiment will be loaded to Canvas, and then I encourage you to print it out. You want to create your own lab manual because you want to study from it. It's going to be difficult to piecemeal all the different sections when you're studying, say, for a lab exam on 6 experiments, to go open up every module and be looking at the experiment again there. So I encourage you to print it up, put it in a binder. The booklet is actually something I created when I taught the course. The handouts you're seeing that you're getting are from my booklet. Again, I will try to load up some of that stuff, but that's now, sort of, I'm not lecturing, so it's not a requirement. I might talk to Maple Press. They're a local place where you can make copies. They've copied some of this for me before, and so it could be that we tell them, hey, you can sell copies of it, but they will decide the price, all right? To any student who wants to go to Maple Press and get it, we can figure that out. Again, this is sort of what matters in terms of what you might need for the course. Clearly, you'll need a calculator when you're taking a test. Typically, if the periodic table or constants would be provided to you by the person giving you the test. Canvas. Now, Canvas is the software where all these online courses are going to be managed through. Because this course has 3 components, you're enrolled in 3 different sections. That means this course alone has 3 different Canvas sections, right? And then you take physics and it might have 2 Canvas sections, right? So you're going to have a lot of Canvas sections that you're going to have to juggle, okay? So there are 3 separate Canvas sections. This would be Chem 1A, and it would be for section 1, 2, or 3, depending on your lecture. That's the one the lecturer manages. I have nothing to do with that one. And so that's where the lecturer will administer lecture exams. If there are quizzes, they'll administer quizzes there. They'll upload content there. They might upload files. They might do their Zoom sessions through it. So you have to be up to date and keeping track of that one. The seminar one I control, that would be section 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. And that's the one where we're going to load up the experiments. And so the experiments will be modules telling you what to do, and we'll talk about that with everyone in Chem 1A. I'll make another video trying to explain that. The report sheet that you have to print, and if there's a worksheet, it might be there. The seminar video would be loaded there. It's where you take your quiz and your lab exam for the labs. And so that's managed through the seminar. The experiments themselves are not loaded to the lab because it takes me too long to load them now to 21 different lab sections. For a lab, that lab Canvas section, it would be for section 10 to 31, depending on which one you're enrolled in, is managed by the lab instructor. And the lab instructor will do Zoom through there. That's where you load up your worksheet for lab, or your lab report, or your pre-lab. And it's where you will do Zoom sessions with your lab instructor. So your lab grades for lab reports or worksheets or pre-labs will be here, but your lab grades for an experiment quiz or the lab exam would be in the seminar section, okay? So stuff is spread out over 3 Canvas courses. and you have to juggle all three. Again, remember, this is a 5-unit class. If you even take Science 1 for the course, then it's a 6.5-unit course. As such, you're expected to be investing a lot of time in this. Before I go to that, let me talk about Science 1 because it was in here. So I think I've covered everything here. So Science 1 is a workshop. It would have been an in-person workshop, but now it's an online workshop. From one of my grants, I hire students who have excelled in Chem 1A and Chem 1B to do additional worksheets, additional study time to help students who enroll in Science 1, okay? And so it's one more place where you can find more practice problems, classmates to talk to, someone who has a good idea how to study for the class. It's just a resource for you. And so I encourage you to consider enrolling in Science 1. All right, so finally, and I'll talk about that a little bit more, How to Study Science. This is a book by Drews and Milligan. If you're really interested in it, you could probably find like the 3rd edition for $5 or less at Amazon. I can't Xerox the whole book for you. That's a violation of copyright. I can Xerox some pages, but not all of it. So I Xerox some of the first pages, and so it's talking about science classes and instructors, so you have it. So let's go through here. There's stuff you can read about what the lab is and all that, but there's a section here on page 5 about the types of instructors. Now, you could have the type of instructor who's the follower. This is the person who's probably reading the book to you. I mean, literally, they're putting up every image from the textbook as an overhead over a PowerPoint, and they're using the PowerPoints that came with the textbook, and for all practical purposes, they're mimicking the textbook for you. That's an instructor that if you miss a class, you probably didn't miss much, because you could go to the textbook and get the information. There's the skipper, who's the person who sort of still uses the textbook, just jumps back and forth, and so you have to know where they're going. The syllabus might help you with that, but it gets a little more interesting because now, they went to this chapter to cover this, but came back to that to do this. That can be difficult, but it's still the textbook. There's the synthesizer, and that's what I am, okay? And I don't know what the other instructors are. You can decide once you see how they lecture and how they cover material. For me, what my job is to try to explain things in a different way than the book. The book has it down. I just try to come up with other ways that I think might work better for you, but are maybe not considered something you would write in a book. For example, for me, bonding is equivalent to the relationship parents have with their children, okay? And so I can make that analogy and students will more quickly pick it up. And so when a bond forms, it's about the 2 nuclei and the electrons that are shared between those 2 nuclei. That's how a bond results, right? And so there's a 100% covalent bond where the 2 nuclei perfectly share the electrons, right? So that to me is analogous to a 2-parent household with the children, and the parents share the labor of raising the children equally, okay? And you will understand that. And then as you start thinking about it, you can start thinking about all the different types of relationships parents and children have, and there is an analogous relationship for bonding. So there's, for example, a polar covalent bond. Well, a polar covalent bond, covalent means the 2 parents are sharing, so the 2 nuclei are involved in keeping control of the electrons. The 2 parents are involved in keeping control of the children and raising them. However, one nucleus tends to take care of them more, so that the children are more polarized, the electrons are more polarized towards the other nucleus. That is an experience maybe a lot of you have in a 2-parent household when one parent has been more responsible for the raising of the children. And so things are a little bit polarized. Then you can think of single-parent households, right? And that's corresponding sort of to ionic bonding. So the relationships are similar. And so whenever possible, I try to bring in your life experiences into the discussion so that you see that you understand the basic concept. We're just now applying it to chemistry. But a book is not going to do that, all right? And though that's what a synthesizer is. And so being absent from an instructor who's a synthesizer for their lecture means you're losing. You're losing an ability to get maybe an explanation of the material that better works for you, okay? And so a decision you have to make, okay? Finally, the originator, this is more common for very upper division courses or graduate courses, is someone who's presenting a variety of sources. I mean, publications, bringing two publications together to make you understand some new content. And for those being absent in class means you're totally lost. For the synthesizers, you're often very lost. I had a student once say that for every lecture they missed with me, it was like 3 hours of studying on their own. So again, it can be a time sink. All right, so you keep reading these things and you find other things here that might be helpful. There's one saying there that the amount of effort doesn't have to be part of your grade. In high school, when a high school chem teacher watched you every day for all semester, which unfortunately obviously didn't happen last semester because of COVID, they might assign some points for effort. They give you A for effort, but your content was a C because you got C's on the test. Maybe you get lucky and you get a B because they saw your effort. We don't care about effort in college for the most part because it's like sort of saying, hey, good job building the bridge, but the bridge collapsed, right? So you can't do that. You have to show proficiency. And so for some people, they have to put in a lot more effort and the grade might not show it or it might show it. It just depends on whether they have the skills and they put in that effort efficiently. Putting effort in efficiently, what does that mean? It means that when you're looking at a problem for Chem 1A, and you're studying at home, and you're looking at that problem for 30 minutes, you're not being efficient. This is Gen Chem. It's a freshman chemistry course. You should be able to come up with how to do that problem and get it done within 5 minutes or less. And so if you're wasting 30 minutes looking at it, something's missing and that was wasted study time. You know, if in the first minute or two you have no idea how to start a problem, as part of, a homework that you're doing at home, then you go to the textbook or you go to the notes and you see if the problem is similar that you can mimic in some way and maybe get the answer, maybe learn the procedure. Or maybe some piece of information is missing, you just don't understand a concept and you need to go study that concept before you try a problem, all right? So there's efficient study and inefficient study. Group study can be great or it can be a sink of time, right? You get together with a group and you're going to study for an hour and guess what? For 45 minutes of that time, you're gossiping. Well, guess what? That's not efficient. That's not part of the effort, right? So you have to come up with ways of being efficient, all right? Because just because you were there trying a problem for 30 minutes, you didn't get it right, you get a 0, even though you invested 30 minutes into it. All right, other places where to get help. The College of Science Advising Center is in Duncan Hall 213. They might have tutors. I mentioned the science workshop. Your instructor's office hours, so you'll have office hours with the seminar instructors. That's not me. So each of these seminars, there's an instructor associated with it. And so they'll be doing the office hours. You have your lecturer, you have your lab instructor that can help you with office hours. Whoops, sorry. We even have light sensors in this room, and sometimes I go longer than the light sensors, or I don't move enough. So those are the resources. I did write in here, chemreview.com. I don't know if that website's still up. It's a little too easy, the stuff in there, but it's a good place to start. Finally, there's like a pyramid here of how we learn. The best way to learn something is to teach it to others. So if you have to teach significant figures to someone else, is because you get it, right? The least effective way to learn something is what you're doing right now, which is listening to me, okay? So lectures more often about listening, or maybe there's a demo, or there's PowerPoints, but it's passive, it's very passive. Active learning is what happens in a lab. Active learning is what happens in a Science 1 workshop. Be aware that the university might also assign some peer mentors to each of the instructors. Those people will have office hours and do workshops. So that organized study group, okay, or the lab itself in a discussion, or actually seeing and doing the experiment is a better way of learning the material than just listening to it. But unfortunately, that's all we have at this moment in time for the Chem Prep. So you'll see that with the handouts, there's a stack of worksheets. I encourage you to print them out and you start working on them. I will be, when I discuss a topic, I will do practice problems, and hopefully you'll be able to, from the practice problems, graduate to doing the problems on the worksheet. Okay, and again, remember, it's supposed to be high school chemistry review, so I'm just trying to remind you of stuff you should know. It might be more difficult if you've never seen chemistry to try to get this done all of a sudden through a Chem Prep course, okay? All right, so we're gonna leave it there. We covered pages 1 through 7 of the handout, so we get to cover the rest of this later. So stay healthy and stay safe, and see you soon.